And observing, as you and I were speaking, is the heavily loaded trailers that are attached to the minibus taxis. Is that something you believe could be a cause for concern as law enforcement officials conduct their roadblocks?
Yes, indeed, that's an issue that has been raised by the Department of Community Safety, Security and Liaison for like each and every year. That's an issue they are facing, those vehicles loaded heading to the Mozambican side. But as I said earlier, there is a lot of police officers on the ground looking into the situation, as well as traffic officers. And here at the Lebombo Border Post, there's also a lot of coordination in as far as the processing of travelers, especially those that are crossing into Mozambique is concerned, because most of the people are moving from the South African side into Mozambique. And as much as there is a lot of people going to the Mozambican side, there are long queues, but the important thing at this stage, Paul, is that the traffic is moving, and of course that shows that there's been a lot of coordination compared to the previous years. But let me bring in the Commissioner of the Border Management Authority, that is Dr. Mike Masilela. He's been camped here with some of the officials trying to ensure that there is no congestion at the border. By the look of things, as much as there are long queues, it looks like you got everything right so far.
Yeah, no, thank you very much. Maybe to start by indicating that we have done a lot of planning to make sure this time around that the manner in which we are to be managing the movement of trucks as well as the movement of persons stands as smoothly as possible. So we have been here for the past 2 days. It is fairly myself as the Commissioner for the Border Management Authority, together with the Deputy Commissioner for Operations and some leadership from the Department of Home Affairs and other departments. So in terms of the actual planning itself, we have to then make sure that the venue operational center is active, and on that basis we have been coordinating all the stakeholders in terms of the management of traffic in particular. If you can then look at the corridor, you will realize that we have deployed a lot of colleagues on the ground. We have deployed members of the RTMC, which is your national police, traffic police. We have deployed the provincial traffic police department colleagues, but we've also deployed members of the SAPS together with the border guards from the BMA on the corridor to make sure that there is no any disorder in terms of the movement. Inside the port itself, everything is going according to plan.
If you can give us an idea in terms of travelers that have been cleared so far, and also I want us to talk about the elements of some people crossing illegally. Is that a problem that we are continuing to see at this stage?
Yeah, at this point we have cleared just overnight around 10,000 people who have actually been moving through into the Mozambican side. In terms of the trucks, overnight in 24 hours we've cleared around 1,600 trucks. So as we speak now, there is very little queue, I would say, of trucks coming through into the environment. But in terms of people, we are expecting them to increase as we go towards the end of the day and also tomorrow, as it were. But in terms of the people that will be trying to cross, outside the port itself on the borderline, we have our colleagues from the South African National Defence Force who are manning all of the key spots outside the port itself, and they're doing a great job in terms of intercepting those individuals and make sure that they're brought into the port for them to be processed so that they can exit the country with their fingerprints taken and all of those.
Tell us about your working relationship with your Mozambican counterparts, because one issue that has been raised by travelers as well as the truck drivers is that there's poor coordination between the two countries. Tell us more about that working relationship. Is it working?
Yeah, maybe just to indicate, yesterday as part of us being present here, we actually met with the leadership from the Mozambican side. The Chief of Immigration, Director of Immigration, he came from Maputo into the port. We met on the South African side at a place called Kilometer 7, and the intention there was to make sure that we synchronize our processes and we make sure that as we do this particular work, particularly in terms of the movement of trucks, at the end of the day, we have themselves on the other side synchronizing their activities together with ours, so that at the end of the day we don't have this traditional problem wherein we do the processing on our side, but on their side there is a blockage. So what we have agreed with them is that we are then to move all of these activities in a synchronized manner. In terms of the movement of small vehicles as well as the movement of persons, we have actually co-located with the Mozambican counterparts on the South African side We process the people to exit South Africa, but we also process them to enter Mozambique from the South African side. So on that basis, we are able to then get them through out of South Africa without having to stop on the Mozambican side. So on that on its own is giving an impression that we have almost started implementing a one-stop border post in a way, and that has been very much successful up to this point.
Lastly, Doctor, let's talk about the issue of cross-border crime. Any incidents that have been reported so far? How are you handling that?
Yeah, as you will remember, Mweli, there has been some challenges on the corridor, particularly when the trucks had stopped in terms of some individuals coming into the truck areas wanting to, in a way, do some criminal activities, stealing the diesel in the trucks and all of that. So what we have done is we have made sure that we get more capacity from the police side to be on the corridor and make sure that those individuals don't do those activities. As we speak now, there has been some individuals up to this point who have been arrested by the police who have been found to be involved in those activities. So I will say most of the, crimes that has been happening on the corridor had been fairly mitigated.
Doctor, thank you very much for talking to us. Paul, that is Dr. Mike Masilela. He is the Commissioner for the Border Management Authority here. Well, he's saying that it's quite a coordinated approach, and they've done everything possible on their side, working with their Mozambican counterparts to ensure that everything is smooth here at the border post.
Very well. Thanks, Mweli Masilela. Let's